Welcome back to another episode of Love, Life, and Legacy, the podcast dedicated to helping you navigate these hypersexualized times. I'm having a moment. I just saw myself, metaphysically speaking, giving the same introduction for the 1 trillionth time. And it's just funny for some reason. I don't know why. I'm having a good time. And today's episode was a doozy. I really liked it. This is a great couple. This is Sebastian and Daria Mahler. If you don't know them, please listen to this episode. If you do know them, please listen to this episode. And here's why. We are starting something called High Noon Couples. Benji, add applause. Somebody add applause. Just add applause in your own head. High Noon Couples is going to be a new part of High Noon whereby we focus specifically just on couples. And we'll get into the details, but essentially we have Radiant, which is a program. This is going to be reformulated into something deeper and richer. And it's going to work in conjunction with a podcast specifically for couples. And we want to work together with couples to help you understand how to get past these shadows that might be impacting your sexuality as a couple. And as we know, sex is connected to so many things: shame, self-judgment, judgment of others. There's just so much entwined in this conversation. It's the core of the universe. So of course, there's a lot of interconnectedness. So we want to create something that's very poignant, very powerful. And the captains of that ship, of the couple ship, Daria and Sebastian. So this interview is with them to unpack their story, who they are, where they came from, how they got to this point where they could even comprehend the notion of helping other couples and what their vision is for the future of High Noon Couples. So please, by golly gosh, listen up. So it's happening. It's finally happening. This has been a long-awaited event. High Noon has been on the prowl for this couple before we knew it and before they knew it, before anybody knew it, but it was destiny. And, I guess we'll unpack who you are, but in relation to High Noon, you guys have actually already been on a tour with us. It was supposed to be, wasn't it just supposed to be one stop? And then it ended up being the entire 4 weeks. We did like a weekend tour of Europe. This was like a year and a half ago or something like that. Do you remember that?
Yeah, 2023 in March. Yeah.
And so is that accurate? My memory is like you guys were like, oh, we can do one weekend, but we're really busy. And then you're like, okay, we'll do another weekend. Okay, we'll just do the whole thing.
Yeah, it was like that.
Yeah.
Like every week I was like, yeah, actually, it's really nice. We should try to do next week. I'm not sure if that works, but it worked out really well.
Yeah. Welcome to being addicted to High Noon. The new addiction. So we know you pretty well. Like, I don't really know how we know. Who knew you first from High Noon? What was it? The inroad?
I'm not sure about you, but I was in STF when High Noon came to Poland to have a workshop with us.
What?
So I know that Sammy and Iggy were there. I think you were there too.
Oh, well, thanks for remembering. Yeah.
I remember just like talking.
Overshadowed by two large Asian people. I see. Just some generic white guy in the background. Yeah, I was there. You were in STF or you were staffing?
Oh my gosh. I think it was in STF. Like
you are young.
Second year.
Wow.
I wasn't that young. I started STF when I was 23, not 18.
Got it. So that was your first introduction. And then Sebastian, did you know about us already then?
In all these German winter workshops, High Noon always popped up. There's that thing that, you do program, or they're doing something in America.
I see.
Yeah. So I heard about you guys back then, but I had no idea. But I knew it was big. But I didn't know how big.
It's Funny because it sounds more like you're talking about some shadow organization, and we're clearly against shadows, right? But you're like some ominous some people exist over there that are doing something. Anyway, well, so the seeds were planted. Then at some point, you became slightly engrafted, and then we just formally invited you to speak on our behalf on a tour in Europe. And then now you are, we'll get into that. But where are you both from? Like, for anybody who doesn't know you, for those poor souls who are just living under a disgusting rock who don't know you, where are you from? Like, give us a bit of your background.
Okay, well, I can start.
Okay.
So, my name is Sebastian Mahler. We're from the Munich community. I'm usually referred to as someone from the Berlin community because I grew up there. But I think since 2017, we're down here. And yeah, I'm 34 years old in
2 weeks.
2 weeks. Yeah. I'm half American, half German, and I'm a physiotherapist. That's
Wow.
what I'm doing as fun and also as job. And
Which part of you is American? Like, do you just give your opinion in where when it doesn't belong, like at a restaurant, or where does your American side come out?
um, maybe more, I'm definitely more German than American, right?
Yeah, for
Yeah, yeah,
sure.
like 80% German, 20 American. Um, yeah, what makes me American?
Your English is really good.
Yeah, I guess.
Hmm.
Like grammar also. Like he really likes to correct me, which
I
I appreciate.
Yeah,
I think that makes them more German than American. I feel like Americans don't know how to speak English. it's, it's pretty bad out there.
yeah.
Um, okay, cool. And then, Mademoiselle, who are you, and what is your story?
Yeah, hi, I'm Daria. Mahler now. I was before Daria Kral. I am full Austrian. Both of my parents are Austrians. And I lived until I was 13 in Austria. But then my parents moved to Poland. They had a company there. And I've never learned Polish, really. Like, I
Mm.
understand it somehow a little bit. I can get around. But with 17, I moved back to Austria to my relatives and went to school and so on. And yeah, lived since 2020 in Germany with my beautiful husband.
Got it. So Poland is just like a footnote in your history.
Yeah,
Just
I definitely feel connected though with the Polish community, and my parents definitely see themselves as Polish. I haven't lived so long in Poland to say I am Polish. I feel more Austrian.
mm,
We live in Bavaria, so it's kind of the culture is very similar to Austria. So um, yeah, I feel more Austrian.
fun fact, your dad, I've never been so on the receiving end of so much desire from a man to give me a delicious dessert as when your parents took us to that chocolate place. It was like Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. It was chocolate
Yeah, yeah,
everywhere. And then like you gotta have chocolate. I think you guys even had hot chocolate with your you had cake and there's a lot of chocolate going on. There's a lot. It was and your dad was so emphatically excited about us ingesting a lot of sugar, and it was really wonderful. It was like Christmas. It felt like Christmas. Your dad was like sugar Santa Claus.
yeah.
Got it. And that was in Poland. Yeah. So cool. And we just had Jonash on the podcast. When people listen to this, Jonash will have been 2 weeks ago. So represent Poland. And so you grew up same neighborhood, but very easily, maybe your paths do cross, don't cross. Do you ever meet each other when you were younger? Like, how did you meet? When did you meet? What is this? Give us the Mahler story, the
Yeah.
Mahler Karl story.
I've never heard of my wife before. Uh,
Fact was that when I was 16, I did an agricultural year you can do in
mhm.
Germany, which was just 30 kilometers away, or no, 30 minutes. Actually,
Yeah.
30 minutes drive away where he actually grew up in close to Berlin. But we
Hmm.
never heard of each other
And
before
then
that.
second fun fact, there was like this Chombo event or something similar with Chanyang near Frankfurt, and Dari and me were there maybe a year before,
Half a year, a
half a
few months
year
actually.
before we started matching. We didn't know
Whoa.
about each other, we didn't know we existed, and I took a picture of that whole event, basically like during break time, so everyone was like running around, and like in the middle of that picture, after I got to know her and she told me, yeah, she was there as well, I saw her. So it's kind of, I was hoping actually to go to that event to get to know someone, but at the same time, you approach that mission, like, do you ask girls out? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah,
Hitting on people while people are smacking themselves.
yeah.
Yeah. You're supposed to go there to meet God, not girls, Sebastian. You little reprobate. So it wasn't time. So you were getting closer and closer into each other's space to the point where you're in the same room, but it just wasn't time. And then a few months later, what happened after that event? Well, how did you guys officially meet, or how did this happen? This.
Well, it was a cold winter evening. It was dark outside,
Hmm.
and I was at my parents' place
Hmm.
for a visit, and my dad got a call. And in the beginning, like I think the first minute or so, he didn't know what was going on. He didn't know
Who is calling?
he didn't know who it was. He didn't know what it was about, and he was just like looking at us, like we were sitting at the dinner table, and then he's like, "Oh, oh," and then he's like pointing to me, like, "Sebastian, come." And we went to another room, and he continued talking, and then I realized, oh, okay, it's a parent approaching my parent for potential match.
Mm.
And yeah, again, I didn't know about Daria. I didn't know about her family name. I didn't know about anything. I just knew that her dad, who was calling my dad, seemed very, yeah, outgoing and sympathisch.
He had a very appealing voice,
Yeah,
Mm.
friendly
friendly
voice.
voice. And yeah, I don't know. I had a good feeling about it, but then also my dad, after the call, said, uh, let's pray about it and let's wait and let's see what comes up.
Mm.
And yeah, that was a start without really starting it, but that was a start. Yeah.
I gotta unpack some of this because how long ago was that?
That was at the beginning of 2020, right? Yeah,
Wow.
like
Yeah.
January of
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah.
And so you were 29, Sebastian, at that time? Something, 29,
Yeah.
30.
Could be. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so this is really cool to me, right? Because it's very countercultural. Uh, a 29-year-old, having a representative that's their parents that act on their behalf and help them find a spouse, and you're working together as a team. You know what I mean? Like it sounds so healthy, it sounds natural, but uh, at that stage, was that the plan that you'll just wait and hear from? Because you're also secretly going to chumbo events looking for babes.
In
But
secret.
yeah, okay, okay. But what did you guys have a formal plan in terms of the matching, and then this was just a good, serendipity, good luck kind of thing?
I think I was 23 when I started to talk to my parents about I wanted to get matched. That was about when I was about to finish my studies for physiotherapy. And yeah, I knew I had time and I was willing and ready to do it. When I was 20, I did STF and I wasn't ready back then. And so I had two relatively long matching processes before I met Daria, and yeah, that was I guess a learning curve, and also I got to trust my parents more during that time. So it wasn't like I knew it wasn't like the fault of my parents that I wasn't matched and blessed yet when I was 29, but it was rather the choices I made till then and the development I went through back then.
Hmm.
It took time, and it was, I guess I was ready at that age, and my parents were just like going
Hmm.
along, waiting for me, and I was like, okay, yeah, that's how I would put it.
I would say it's unbelievable. I mean, the idea that you have some sort of faith in a cosmic rhythm, right? How many times do so many of us force our will or impose our sense of urgency on our timeline, right? Like, I need this now. And it's just like your own insecurities, but you're like waiting. And that those are some precious years, right? Where you're like really ready for love, right? And a lot of people, that's when a lot of people make their biggest mistakes, is because they just skip ahead, and somehow you had a system with your parents where you just trusted them, and this all happened. So that sounds just really cool. You know, it's not common, and it's unfortunately so. uh, and so, Daria, how is it that your parents ended up calling his parents? Was this your bidding, or what? How did this happen?
Um, yeah, actually, um, I was in a matching process before that, and that ended it. Like, I initiated, but it was from both sides a good decision in October 19 that we ended this matching.
Okay.
And but I felt like really ready on uh, going into a new matching process very quickly, because I was it was a great learning curve, and I've understood a lot of things that I need in a relationship and what I don't need,
Hmm.
and but still be open, you know,
Yeah, yeah,
like not to close myself for opportunities, but you know, see
yeah.
where it goes. And so we did a condition with my parents, and it was actually doing this 2 years of matching process and being matched. It was very difficult relationship with my parents. A lot of things happened that were really difficult in with my with the trust I had towards them.
Okay.
But that was actually really a really healing time when we did
Hmm.
again this process of, okay, let's do a condition together. And then I told them, actually, I don't want to know anything. uh, as soon as someone really substantially is there, and this person is really willing to have a conversation, then they can let me know.
Okay.
And also, I was then in SDF as a staff at that time. We were going to Korea. We had a 21-day workshop. So I said, I don't have the head to focus on that right now. So it was at the blessing at 2020 February, after my
Okay.
sister's blessing. Actually, she got
Okay.
blessed at that, my younger sister. And we met at the Hyojeon Cafe in Changpyeong, and they showed me his profile. And then I was like seeing his profile, and it was saying he's a physiotherapist. And the first thought was like, oh great, he's good at massages.
Free lifetime subscription to massages.
Yeah, it's just like I'm giving more massage than he does.
Yeah. I'm sure it's like probably the last thing he wants to do when he gets home after a long day of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear
That's the
you.
point. Yeah.
So you size profile, and then that was already your parents had a sense about him, or you took your sister showed you the profile and then you showed it to your parents, or what was that?
My parents showed me, like, they had actually two young men in mind. One was Sebastian, was another one. And the thing was, my dad was a little bit insecure about, he's a bit spiritually open. And at my first match, he was like really strong, saying like he sees so much beauty in this relationship, and and so on. And I felt like, okay, I trust my dad because he shared this opinion, so I will try. And I shared that with him, so he was like, was really insecure afterwards, than sharing his opinion or believing on what he sees. And then my mom is not as spiritually open, but still, she saw with Sebastian more light, love, more children. So they said, okay, they're gonna move forward first with Sebastian. And after they showed me a picture of him, or was it after our first call? I'm not sure. I was still in Chongping at that time, and I went to the prayer Chongqing one, and I had a really nice picture somehow in my head, like also with a lot of light and love and children. And so I was like, okay, this is I feel good to try it out, to see where it goes.
Yeah, nice. And then how did you guys make this decision? You were open, right? Sebastian, you get some call and your dad is very confused and he's like, oh, somebody wants to marry you. And so you get that. And then Daria, you have, some sense of going in this direction, like, let's see how it goes. And then you meet up, and then how's your matching process, and how did you give the ultimate yes?
Something I really appreciate about the parents matching is that when parents, and my parents did that, when they pray and have a prayerful attitude about it, it makes it more, it just gives it more weight, I want to say. And my parents wanted to pray about the decision first to introduce her to me. Or I guess we all together did a prayer condition and wanted to think about the proposal of her dad to basically meet up or let both of us talk for the first time. And so I think it took, I don't really remember, but maybe it took like 2 months, is that correct?
About 1.5 months.
Yeah.
My parents actually thought already that his parents decided not to go forward because they were praying, but they didn't get any feedback.
The problem was both parents didn't decide on like a fixed timeline when they were gonna decide. It was just like, okay, let's
Classic.
talk about it and let's see. And that was the mistake, basically.
Sounds
Luckily,
like Romeo and Juliet, but you guys caught it in time.
we did.
It's like that was all a timing issue.
How did it work out though? Like, did your parents call mine or did mine call yours? Or what was that?
Your parents actually, my parents were at the Chanjongong, at the morning service with your mother, and then they got a message from his parents. And I was like, whoa, a big sign.
Okay.
Great. And so then it was on. And then what?
We had, I was still in Korea because I wanted to do a 21-day workshop. And we had our first call when I was still in Korea in Changpyeong. I remember that I started to write to him because that was our agreement that I will write to him when I have time because I was kind of busy. And then he wasn't answering for, I think, a few days. And in my previous matching, that was a big issue because the other person didn't reply very often for a very long time. And I was like, oh, not again. It was the very first impression. But he had a reason, really, so he was also really busy. But
Actually, there is no reason for not replying. Let's be honest here.
thank you.
Yeah.
But we said then, okay, maybe it's good to have a call because writing down everything is just like, yeah. It's difficult to write down everything, so talking it's easier. So I asked him for a specific time, and he was like, "Yeah, can we do it a little bit later?" I asked him for 9 a.m. for his time, and he was, yeah, can we do it an hour later? I was like, okay, 10 is a bit late. It's like, yeah, I'm getting up not that early. So, yeah, we had our first conversation when I was in a Hyojin cafe, and it was really nice. I just remember the feeling. I don't remember what we talked about so much, but it was, yeah, just like really a nice talk and not awkward at all, really friendly and easygoing, no awkward pauses, anything. Yeah.
We tried not to make it awkward.
And you went pretty well.
Was it a relatively smooth matching process to get from first point of contact to the blessing?
Yeah.
It was right, quite
Yeah.
quick.
Actually, also, yeah, we got blessed in the same year. Like there
Nice.
was again a blessing in October 2020, and we went through that one.
Which month was that? That was March.
We started our matching process in end of February,
Mm-hmm.
and we went to the blessing in October.
Nice.
It was,
You're on the fast track.
yeah, it was kind. We both were maybe also in an age, and
Yeah.
also mentally in a place where, for example, I just threw myself in there because I said I'm not gonna waste 2 years again. I mean, this 2 years with my previous match was not a waste of time. I've learned a lot of things, but I said I want to know if it's gonna work out or not faster.
Yeah.
So
Fair enough.
I was kind of emotionally or really vulnerable and emotionally felt like naked because I just showed myself, are you able to deal with that or not? And he did. I was also able to deal with him. So not just to deal with it, but kind of, yeah, having good communication, being vulnerable to each other, being honest to each other about our previous struggles or challenges.
Well, I felt quite moved by that Daria would be so open and so vulnerable in yeah, wasn't like early on, but quite early on. And that also helped me to be honest with her. And once we both knew, okay, we have everything on the table, yeah, we didn't really have big reasons that, would spontaneously turn us around and say, okay, this is too weird or too much to take. But we both knew what we were dealing with, and since we both felt that we were accepting each other, that was a great basis for us to just say, okay, let's go ahead. Yeah.
Also the commitment. I feel like, yeah, that was that was actually also one thing that impressed me so much was I've never had the feeling that I needed to impress Sebastian. He always, like, in the previous matching, I always felt I needed to impress that person and that I'm good enough. But with him, I always had the feeling from the beginning on, I am good enough as I am. And the security, the safetiness, and also the commitment that he was really committed and I was committed, and that made the whole situation more safe. And yeah, that was really great.
Sounds wonderful. A lot of, following your feelings. You had a good feeling the first talk, and then also you felt worthy of love and, with him. So, and then, so you went to the blessing and then just autopilot, just straight autopilot. Everything's perfect. It's now just maintenance of perfection. Or have you guys worked on your marriage? Was it happily ever after? What's, I think some people see you, especially with High Noon, you've popped up here and there, and now you're in this position taking care of couples. And it's very easy for us to discredit our own work and to praise other people that we see on a screen. Oh, they must be perfect because they're not me and I'm not perfect, but they must be because they know how to talk and all this stuff. So I just kind of want to unpack possibly some of the work you might have put in. so that people don't get the wrong impression that everything's happily ever after, right?
Hey, just a quick intermission to let you know that High Noon has a program just for single people that want to prepare well for marriage. So if you happen to be one of those single people that wants to be a stellar, fantastic, amazing, marriageable man or woman, then check out the core program, which you can find at highnoon.org. It is just for single folks like you who want to get ready for marriage and be ready for marriage. So join that at highnoon.org, and we will see you in the core program.
Okay, well, for me, there was a reason for my two previous matching processes why I didn't feel ready yet, and that was because I basically grew up with SSA, same-sex attraction, and same-sex attraction, if it's not understood correctly, or it wasn't understood correctly by me, so it was really hard for me to express what I needed from my wife, what I needed from my relationship, and what kind of understanding I needed to see from her. And since not so many, like females get confronted with that topic, it was really hard for me to feel understood in the matching process. And also I didn't have when I was younger, I didn't have the courage and I guess I guess I haven't worked enough on myself that I could see myself in a situation of, having grown up with SSA. I was too much entangled with it. So, it was just too difficult for me to share it very easily and honestly with my spouse, or not with my spouse, with my potential future spouse. So I guess 2-3 years before I got to know Daria, I was lucky enough to meet with other men who also experience SSA, and to also learn a lot about it, go to retreats, and to just understand it better. Also, my dad gave me a lot of material that he knew about from Richard Cohen, and I basically worked on my view, or my self-image, on how I see myself, my self-worth, and that helped me so much more to put into words what I felt, but what also my dreams were, like that I wanted to be married and blessed to a wife, that I want to have children, and that I didn't choose a lifestyle other than that. But those, I guess, decisions and that work just took so much time and effort. And I tried to explain it to Daria a little bit, like on some of our first calls together, and I wasn't really sure if it was too much for her, but I also felt, okay, she's putting so much on the table. If I put that on the table right now in the beginning, then it's fair game, like she can decide. And but I didn't say that I had SSA, that I was struggling with it, that I wanted to overcome it. I didn't talk about that with Daria in the very beginning, because we were just like easygoing, getting to know each other. And then there's a story with your parents, right?
Oh my gosh. That was that was actually really impressive. The thing is, like, I actually have experiences with SSA, not myself, but I've done an internship with Hilda Wieman, who has worked with Richard Cohen together, and she herself has worked with men and women, I think, that had or have SSA, and so it was something familiar for me, also for my parents. They have heard of that, and also Richard Cohen. And when they wanted to, like, after actually my parents introduced me to Sebastian, they heard from someone else that he might actually have SSA or struggles with that. And the first reaction was like, oh my God, no, it's not gonna work out. they were like in a panic reaction, and they tend to overreact. So I knew that already of them. So first was kind of, yeah, actually, no, Daria, it's not gonna work out. It's like, okay, whatever. And then after, they said, okay, maybe we should talk with Sebastian about that. And then they wrote to him and asked if they can have a call with him. He had no idea about what it was about.
Oh, it's an ambush.
Yeah, it was really. And then they had the Skype at that time, and they said, yeah, hi, we're Daria's parents, and we heard you have SSA.
Oh my God.
When I heard that, I was like, oh God, I felt so sorry.
Was that pretty confronting for you, Sebastian? Like,
Well,
there's no manual that prepares you for that.
I thought it was really cool, actually, because I had to really think really well about what I would say, because it's one thing, to put it on the table with your match, and then you have like so many other talks to like expand and talk about it and like go back and forth. But with her parents, it was like, okay, now I have to like actually say what I want from the match and what I like really, where I am at in my life right now. And I never had to do that before, really think about it. So it was helpful for me to share that. It gave me more clarity, but also I didn't know what to expect from their reaction.
Yeah.
I try to remember what they said exactly after I shared. I'm trying to remember. I believe it was quite neutral, and I believe Daria's dad turned around to her mom and said, well, actually it's quite impressive and nice how honest he is with us. But I didn't know what comes out of that. Like, I didn't know if that still, would be
Deal
would
breaker.
be a deal breaker. That's the word.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, what a call.
Just 10 minutes. Yeah, it was 10 minutes of.
Oh, wow.
They didn't really ask him many questions. It was rather,
Putting you on the
we
spot.
heard, and then I explained, and then they were like,
Okay, thank you.
so do you believe you're ready? And then I'm like trying to explain what I feel, where I am at, and it's
my
hard.
my parents were really impressed by that. Because
I didn't know then, but Daria told me afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were really impressed because he could just like slap the laptop and said like, no, I'm not gonna deal with that.
Yeah.
it would have been illegitimate because
Yeah,
it's like, to have that kind of approach.
You're marrying into that situation, right?
Yeah.
Well, that goes to show when you work on yourself, when other people have issues about you, but you've already dealt with your issues on some level, it's much easier to process it because you're like, I get it. I know where you're at. I was there too, kind of thing. It's just, it's part of the dividends that come with self-healing, and that internal work is other people's impressions of you, especially out of ignorance, are just, it's like, yeah, no problem. I get it. But when you're still in the emotions of it, if anybody prods it, you're very easy to react. So yeah, really cool. And so, I mean, that was one issue that came up. But I feel like you guys are both pretty proactive in your marriage, like you invest. And so what kind of investments have you put into your marriage that have really paid off? Things that you've like workshops or books, or what kind of things have you kind of invested in?
I've done a lot of or had a lot of tools already beforehand, like with Safe Conversation, for example, from Nancy Bueller. And also Basti was in a therapy, and like sometimes if we had difficulties we didn't know really how to deal with them, we talked with this therapist about it, right?
So Daria knew that therapist.
Yeah, I knew him beforehand,
Yeah.
and I introduced him actually to them.
Yeah. So when we got together, Daria was like, "You're not good enough. Here's a therapist."
No, that's not true.
Just joking.
She prescribed you a therapist.
No, I wanted to. I knew from the High Noon Summit that was right around when we were in our matching process. You guys had the 24-hour summit. And of course, you guys also had the topic of SSA, and we had some people, some professionals speaking.
Yeah.
So I had resources there, and I also talked to Jean, and yeah, basically I was ready to go to find a therapist. But then, while talking to Daria about that, because we were talking in our matching process, also about the summit, then she said, "Yeah, I actually have a therapist. I know one, and he knows about SSA and everything." And so, yeah, that got me on the right track to healing and to self-discovery and to finding words to what I feel. And then that helped us in many ways in our relationship. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Also, I was doing coaching certification. So
I remember that.
I asked him a lot of questions, and he was like, "Yeah, ask me deeper, ask me deeper, ask me more questions." I'm not
He's
very
ready.
good at my understanding with a certain topic, for example, and I felt that was also really helpful on becoming aware on what do I actually feel, or where does that come from, and to share it, or share it in a way that can be received rather than just throwing it out there, because you want to be understood by someone else, but if you understand it, it's great, but if you want to be understood, then you also have to express it in a way that a person can receive it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And usually I tell people we don't fight, which is not true. I guess it's more how I experienced as a child what fighting is. Like screaming at each other, throwing stuff around the room. That is how my parents fight or have fought. And that's why I say we don't fight. We do have conflicts and we have discussions, but we don't scream at each other, and we don't throw things at each other or around the room.
It's not our upbringing to do that. Like my
Sure.
parents never did that. We're not Italians or Spanish.
My parents are both Austrian.
You're gonna start a war.
But I don't want to judge people that are like yelling at each other, and just because we don't do it, it's more like I don't want to do it because I feel super uncomfortable being yelled at and yelling, and I guess you too.
Yeah, for me, it's like what I've experienced in my family, and I felt I didn't feel like it was productive for me, and I didn't see it would be productive for the people around me. So of course, so I've learned kind of to withdraw. And Basti was kind of more the person who was like, "No, let's talk about it." It's like, "No, I'm not ready yet." So that is actually what we've learned as well, to maybe give me some time to process, but then also to talk about it. Going for walks. This is something we love to do, and I've also heard from Hilda Wieman from a book. It's called Walk the Blues Away.
Yeah.
And this is something we always do religiously, going for walks when we have a conflict or an easy feeling, and then just talking about it, sharing it.
So you can throw other people's stuff instead of throwing your own stuff, right?
Yeah.
Just throw tree branches. I get
Yeah, exactly. Or
you.
rocks in the water.
Yeah, rage rock throwing. I like that. My kids do that. Okay, and so I mean, it sounds like you are very you're like, let's say your parents just calling up Sebastian. That's actually quite high noon. Sebastian, you unpacking who you really are and showing your true self to Daria. That's super high noon, right? There's a lot of notes of high noon in this story, and so we asked you if you could head up this new high noon couples thing, right? Which is being built. Um, did it feel like the right fit automatically because your blood is high noon already, or was there some resistance? Like how did you feel about being asked? Was there a sense of unworthiness? I know a lot of people when they're asked to do something that sounds intimidating, they're like, "Why me? Why me?" So, yeah, how did you feel?
I mean, honestly, since I got to know Daria, and that was before I had anything to do with Ainun, but since I got to know Daria and she so openly shared about her struggles while we were matching, I shared about my struggles while we were matching. It felt okay. We really see the value in that in living high noon. So once we got to know you guys a bit more, we were quite impressed, and we wanted to contribute or be part of in some sort of way. And we were that 1.5 years ago when we were with you guys touring. But we also knew we wanted to do something more, right?
Yeah. I was actually really impressed by Sebastian when he shared his story,
My God,
because
yeah.
that was, um, I felt like it's not easy, especially in our times with the whole LGBTQ plus community. And so I feel like it's so valuable when someone who struggles with it
Yeah.
shares about it. Is in it's his own experience, because nobody can actually accuse you of that, because it's like it's his experience, right? So
Yeah.
if someone talks about it that they don't struggle with, then it's okay. You might be able to kind of say something about it, but it's different if someone's like a true testimony. And I remember when you wrote me the text on, I would like to, what do you think about doing something for High Noon? And
Is that my voice? Are you just doing an impression of me? Yeah, hey guys, would you like to work for High Noon?
I'm not trying to.
Okay.
Yeah.
First I was like, I want to hear more. Dusty was like, I'm not so sure about that.
Yeah.
But after our call, Basti was looking at me and was like, you really like to do that, right? I was like, yes! Because when I did the coaching certification, it was at the beginning of our blessing, our matching actually, and I finished a year and a half afterwards, and we were blessed already at that time. I saw so much potential to help couples in their relationship, because we've also used different tools on either from Mind Valley. I'm not sure if that is a term for you. Different ways of communication, or dealing with conflicts, and I really wanted to have something for couples that they have a great potential to have a great blessing and relationship and marriage. And maybe it's going fine, but both of them kind of coexisting with each other. And so I was like, yeah, this is something I really want to put my energy in.
Sweet. Well, thank you for saying yes. I mean, it was really weird because we were thinking about this. It's something that we wanted. We wanted a High Noons couples thing. There's clearly a need. There's clearly a giant open space of nothingness, very little, if any, support for most communities and most people after the blessing, right? So we saw the opportunity, but then it was like, who? And then for the longest time, we were racking our brains, and you were right there, but we couldn't see you. And then one day, I was just like, oh my God. And then I just was like, of course, them, right? And so you guys were already on tour with us, for God's sake. So it's not like a surprise. So yeah, I appreciate you stepping up, because I know how European you can be. Because Europeans, what I've noticed in working, they love to think about stuff. It's like to the detriment and to the benefit of the world that Americans are so impetuous, because we get into a lot of trouble started because we don't think. But a lot of times working with Europeans is like, okay, yeah, let me think about it. It's like, oh, okay, go. Fine. And that can usually mean go away. I don't want to talk to you, and I just don't want to say it. But what I felt was it was something that the offer stimulated a lot of different things in you, like that excitement that you're talking about, but also potential fear and like, who am I? And what is this role even? We're basically creating this entire ministry, we could call it, but it's like the wing, this department of High Noon, right? So I appreciate you taking it seriously and then also rising up to the challenge, both of you, because you're really doing it as a couple.
Yeah.
And so the question is, what is this High Noon Couples? What are your plans? It's still burgeoning, it's still bubbling up to the surface, but what do you see it forming into, and what is your vision? I'd love to help people see what is this thing that's being created.
Yeah, sure. So I guess we can just say our mission statement.
Let's do it.
Is to empower blessed couples to build strong, intimate bonds through heavenly sexuality, fostering mutual pleasure, love, connection, and joy, with resources that inspires deeper relationship with each other and Heavenly Parent.
Amazing.
And I guess what that means is we want to create resources, not just we, but with other people that are professionals, because we are not professionals. We are actually curious about
Yeah.
and we want to figure out and have a conversation with other couples, with either one-on-one sisters and wives, or brothers, husbands, or having a conversation with a professional in a specific field.
Yeah.
And having a podcast, like creating this podcast where you can listen in, but also finding different resources on maybe different programs or different people that are maybe helpful in difficult situation that we maybe not able to support in.
Sure.
As well as hopefully in the future all in-person workshops.
Yeah.
Especially, I guess in Europe it's more easy. I'm not sure if in America maybe another couple can take over that. As well as getting involved with Radiant, supporting them to open up for more couples maybe, or having resources on different topics that are relevant. And in one of the podcasts that are already available on High Noon is this marriage thing, this marriage podcast. One couple said, and it's kind of stuck in my head, was marriage is the only relationship we have sex in. So and so that is also like really big part, like your sexual relationship, and there's so much built around it, so that either sex is good or is not so good, and having this conversation as well, so
amazing. Yeah, I love that. That was a big point of debate about School of Love, and similarly with this High Noon couples, is that do you hire a professional or do you hire a couple that's just in it? And with School of Love, do you hire Amelia, who is very early on in the journey? Is like, yeah, to me, that's far more useful because her curiosity is going to drive School of Love, and your curiosity is going to drive this High Noon couples, because we have so many therapists. But think about this, like the whole idea of therapists is new to humanity. Up until then, we just had each other to work through our stuff, our brothers and sisters, our aunts and our uncles, right? And there's definitely a place for professionals, for sure, because we're so unnatural in the way that we live. But what we've found in High Noon is actually what most people just need is a support system, a family, a community that can resolve so much. And so, yeah, these podcasts are going to be amazing. Like you said, you're going to be working together with Radiant to create programs. So the podcast programs, interviewing professionals, and developing stuff. So for couples who are excited about this, like, is there a way that they can contact you? Are you closed off to suggestions and you're like, we got this, we don't want to hear from you, we'll just create it? Or what type of relationship would you like with anybody who's listening that's curious and wants to contribute or wants to know more? Or what's the kind of immediate way in which they can connect or collaborate or whatever?
Right. So we have created a survey that we will send out soon, as well as with a commercial about like presenting us in High Noon couples, High Noon couples.
Mm-hmm.
And so in this way, definitely knowing what couples going through and what they are needed,
Mm-hmm.
it helps us to create that content that is wanted and needed.
Sure.
There's also we have now a email address, either couples at highnoon.org or Daria at highnoon.org.
So couples at highnoon.org or Daria, and that's, how do you spell Daria? Just for all the Americans.
Daria.
Yeah.
Why are you looking at him? You were just...
It's written right here.
Every morning, fresh on his face. I own you. Okay, so DARIA at highnoon.org or couples at highnoon.org. And this is, for anybody out there, we did the same thing with School of Love. We're still doing it, which is, it should be dynamic. We shouldn't create stuff that we think you want, but rather let us know what you want, what you need. There's couples going through all sorts of stuff. We're not going to be a one-stop shop to resolve all problems in all couples. The focus is largely on sexuality, but sexuality is entwined with so many other things, right? So, please let us know where you're at, what topics you would like them to cover. If you've done Radiant, any improvements you'd like to see, because we're going to redux that. We're gonna remake it at some point and just recreate it in the likeness of its best version. So reach out to...
As well as what I think is also important, that if there are couples out there that feel they have a great story, overcoming certain challenges, difficulties, struggles, and really willing to share about that, please, please contact us so that you can share and let people and other couples know how do you deal with that.
That's very important. Yeah, that overcoming is a big thing, because there's some people out there who really try to prevent others from sharing their testimony. And they said, even my wife once gave a message to our community about her depression. And I even mentioned it once because I asked my wife, is it okay? And then afterwards, all these ladies surrounded her and be like, are you okay with that? They're discussing very personal stuff. And I wasn't denigrating her. I was, commemorating. I was validating her effort, but talking about some real stuff. And that liberated so many other people because they're like, oh, I went through that. And then they can talk about it. So testimonies are incredibly powerful, and it's super rare because when we see each other, let's say at church or at some event or somewhere at somebody's house, and people are like, how are you? You typically aren't being like, well, let me tell you, we were just fighting. And like, you just say, I'm fine, right? But that realness, we got to talk about it. So there's communities potentially through Radiant. There's conversations on the podcast. We want to create stuff, right? That allows for this conversation to flow and for healing to happen. Well, cool. Do you have anything else that you want to convey to people listening about your excitement or your trepidations or a request or anything at all that you just want to let people know about?
Yeah, we're still working on the commercial in the first episode.
Yes, you are.
Please be patient. We gotta send it out soon.
Yeah.
We're really excited about it. I guess the most you will see in the new year. And yeah, if you have already something in your mind that you definitely want to share or contribute in any ways, we definitely will find a way out. Please contact us. Please contact either us through our email or either Instagram or Facebook, or if you have my WhatsApp number, you can get in touch with us through WhatsApp.
Yeah.
And yeah, happy
Great.
to have a conversation.
Yes, wonderful. These are much needed conversations. Don't suffer alone. Everybody, that's the main message of High Noon. These shadows are not resolved in isolation. They only grow. They start to dissipate, dwindle, disappear in the light. And that light is through conversation, through reconciliation, through, connection. So reach out. They're here. They don't have all the answers. That's the point. But they will bring the forces together little by little to create the space for healing through your contributions too. So if you want to help. If you feel called, call. If you need help, reach out. Okay? Thank you all. And thank you both for letting us catch up. This is a great introduction. They will have their own podcast, everybody. Stay tuned. It's going to be exciting. Launching 2025. Right, guys? Yeah, new podcast, new stuff. So stay tuned. Thank you, Daria. Thank you, Sebastian, for joining us today.
Thank you, Andrew, for
Sure.
having us.
Thank you everyone for listening.
Yeah. Peace.
Oh, yes. Benji here, guys. If you've benefited from this episode and you love the podcast, then please consider becoming a donor for High Noon. It is a special privilege to be a donor. If you want to donate just $10 a month or $20 a month or $100 a month, if you want some way to contribute to something really, really impactful, and you have some cash to do that, then please let High Noon be that for you. We welcome you. We are still a nonprofit, and we use all the funds to help support our programs, to change the lives of lots of people and travel the world and do epic stuff like that. So please go to highnoon.org/donate and please help us out. All right. See ya.